Man, thank you so much for joining me today, Mikhail. I wanted to welcome everybody here to another episode of Dealer Chats, brought to you by DealerXT. Of course, my name is Ali Rakshanafar, and I'm really excited to be here with you today, Mikhail Sarkhosh, who is going to tell you all about what he does and what company he's with in just a few minutes. But man, Mikhail, I've been looking forward to this one, man. Welcome.
Ali, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. First and foremost, as you mentioned, my name is Mikhail Sarkhosh. I work with my father, Reza Sarkhosh. We run an agency by the name of Sarkhosh Insurance Agency. We're based here in Fresno, California. My role here is primarily broker, but I'm also the vice president of the company. So, being a small business, like probably many of our viewers are experiencing, you wear many hats. So being a broker, I call myself a director of janitorial sometimes because you got to pick up the messes when they come. But it's awesome, man. Working in a family business, it's just a blessing. So thanks for having me.
Of course, it's a pleasure. I know that you're involved with Sarkhosh Insurance, and you're the VP of the organization now. Are you involved in any other business ventures at this time?
Not as of this time, no. This has got my hands full amongst raising a family.
Of course.
Yeah, but thankfully, given the circumstances of the past year, we're just lucky to still be in business.
Of course. Yeah, it's obviously been a really tough year for everyone. Let's talk a little bit about insurance,
Sure.
Dealership insurance specifically. I think that's something that a lot of dealers are constantly asking questions about or curious about. There's a lot of misconceptions out there, misunderstandings about what types of insurance they should have, what is available to them. I'd like to kind of start with a really basic question, which is, why do car dealers need insurance policies?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Believe it or not, I get that sometimes, and I think before I answer that question, I'm going to answer it a little bit differently, because a lot of times I get car dealers who are new to the industry, okay? And they are unable to distinguish what insurance is versus what a bond is. And as you know, in the state of California, or I think any state, you have to be bonded. I think there's different amounts in each state. California, for example, as a retail dealer, you have to have a $50,000 dealer bond, right? And a lot of times dealers think, well, I'm bonded, I'm insured. I said, no, bond is not an insurance. So that's really the first misconception, okay?
Wow.
Is what does the bond do, and how does that apply? And I simply respond, bond is collateral. Bond is not insurance where you have a deductible. Bond is, if you make a mistake, state of California is going to use that as collateral to fulfill the issue that has been presented to them. If you don't respond to that customer demand because of whatever car you sold them, was the disclosure wasn't there, or this, the odometer wasn't correct, whatever issue nowadays it could be, if you don't handle that firsthand, the client is going to go after the bond, and bond does not pay like insurance. Bond is going to pay the client the settlement of $10,000 or $15,000, and then they're going to hire their own attorney at the top dollar amount to defend you, and then they're going to send you the invoice for the settlement plus the attorney fees, which could easily be thousands and thousands of dollars. But to answer your question about the insurance, every retail dealer, if not every wholesale dealer, should have it, okay? There's three very simple reasons why. Number one, auto liability, right? If you have a personal auto insurance, most personal auto insurance companies exclude business use, okay? So the second is slip and fall. If somebody comes onto your lot and they happen to, step over an oily piece of concrete or wet area and they hit their head, you need to have a general liability, you know, up to $1 million to cover those type of incidents. It's a no-brainer nowadays. And then, of course, number 3, to simplify it, is the physical damage of your fleet. You know, everybody is spending money on their assets to resell for a profit. Yet if you don't have them insured correctly and something happens, you'll be upside down very quickly.
Would you recommend a dealer get insurance from maybe a broker that doesn't deal with car dealer insurance?
Well, that's actually a solid question. And I think we've become successful in this niche because a lot of agents, they don't like to touch things that they don't understand. Okay. So if you approach your agent, sometimes agents don't know how to say no, right? And I've come across a couple situations where they're like, I'm with my guy, he's a good friend of mine, you know, he wants to help me, and they really try to help him, but they just don't have enough education in these type of policies to really guide them down the right path. Okay. And not to say that they're not doing their job, it's just outside of their everyday practice, you know? And on the other hand, there are some agents that just simply focus on other niches that, you know, are outside of that realm. So, I mean, it's like me asking, you know, if I would go to a labor law attorney instead of for a car dealer issue, you know, instead of going to you guys, right? So there are some agents who can, you know, obviously tap into it, but a lot of times, you know, it's just sometimes maybe not worth their time. So people like myself, and there's other agencies in California and surrounding states that only do car dealer insurance. We don't only do car dealer insurance, but we you know, have a strong partnership with our carriers, and we give them a lot of business in order to you know, keep those relationships intact, where they're not knocking on our door, you know, whether it's a losses issue with too many claims or lack of production. Those aren't the issues. It's more about us finding what the best fit for this, which insurance company is the best fit for this in particular dealer. Mm-hmm. You know, and really there is no, you know, there is no direct answer to that, because some people, they may say, I can do it, you know, and you trust them, you know. So who are you to not trust this guy who's been doing your home and auto for all these years? But I'll tell you what, always ask for a second opinion, you know, especially if you're new in this business. I think the least you can do is get, if not 2, but 3 opinions, you know. And I think that's like the most important question I have when I get approached by a car dealer is, who are you working with?
Sure. But specifically talking about lawsuits, and even more specifically talking about the CLRA.
Yes.
Is there any type of insurance policy currently available for car dealerships in California that can help the dealer in a situation where they receive a CLRA demand letter, or even worse, a lawsuit under those same kinds of customer complaints?
So there's 4 there's 4 specific coverages that are available on most of the dealer policies nowadays. And I will say that consumer complaint is one that there's actually 2 of them. Consumer complaint and government confiscation were 2 endorsements that were dropped from the majority of all the car dealer policies because of the frequency that the claims would occur. You know, so basically insurers would say, we're getting hit too hard on these in this industry in California. We're no longer going to offer consumer complaint or government confiscation. Okay. Which is a different scenario, but those are the 2 that I know pre-2016 they used to offer. Okay. And on the applications, they would even have a checkbox. Nowadays, you don't see that. there's maybe one company out there that will offer consumer complaint coverage, and there's a limitation usually of $25,000. And in addition, I call it a one-time get out of jail free card, because even if the carrier offers it to you, and if you happen to have a claim, basically they're not going to offer it to you again the next year, or when you submit your account to another company and they see that you had that type of incident, they may just exclude it entirely. So underwriting has become very strict, okay, in California, in Nevada and Arizona are almost the same, but a little bit less strict. We write mainly California, Oregon, Nevada, and Arizona, okay? And those are very hard to get coverages, okay? The carriers that I see offering it are actually more tailored towards the new car dealers instead of used car dealers, okay? They actually offer more bells and whistles to the new car dealers than the used ones, because as you may know, used are usually a target for these type of situations. But there's also the fine print, right? And if a consumer complains about one of the following, which can be in relation to title errors and omissions, okay, that's a common one. If there happens to be a complaint in that response, then yeah, the carrier has to legally defend you. Okay, but what's more common in that situation is DMV clerk forgetting to put, the lien holder on the title, and now that client owns the vehicle free and clear. Okay, that's the title E&O coverage. There are 4 endorsements that can be added to dealer policies, and these are the ones that are most commonly covered by insurance carriers, but they don't exactly cover consumer complaint, okay? So I'm just gonna go down the 4 different lines of coverage, and if a consumer complaint happens to fall within one of these 4 lines of coverage, then of course the carrier has to legally defend you on that response. So the first one is title errors and omissions. A good example would be if a dealer forgets, or even the DMV clerk forgets to put the lien holder on a title, and now the client owns that vehicle free and clear. They can get a title loan, they can do God knows what with it. Of course, it's not legal, and they're probably going to, have some trouble down the line, but some people are coached, or they don't care about their credit, or what have you, right? Title E&O. The second one, which is very common, is false pretense, okay? False pretense is just as it sounds, if I were to purchase a vehicle from you, Ali, under a false pretense, fake ID, fake pay stub, fake references, etc., and then I put, let's say, $2,000 down on that $10,000 car, I just got away with the $2,000 car, a $10,000 car for $2,000. Mm-hmm. And so that's a purchasing under false pretense. Or another scenario in that is even like test drives. It's super important, to always accompany your prospect clients with the salesperson, because I know some people may be watching, they're, a one-man show or mom and pop, it's just a couple of them, and they get so busy, especially during this time with tax season. Maybe they have a good friend that they want to do a test drive around the block real quick. Okay, first off, false pretense. What if the guy gives you a fake ID? He can take that car and you'll never see it again. Fake ID, fake insurance ID card, he's gone. Not to mention the liability aspect. Who knows if this person is going to be doing donuts in the parking lot and God forbid kills somebody while doing that. So that's a big no-no on unaccompanied test drives. The third is federal odometer, okay, which is very simple. If you happen to buy a vehicle that was stated at 100,000 miles, but you come to find out it has 200,000 miles, hopefully the auction will take care of that situation, but if not, there is coverage with the insurance companies to settle those type of claims in the event of an odometer rollback, okay? Um, the next one is truth in lending. If you don't follow the truth in lending, statutes and requirements according to the contract, which is exactly why you should be partnered with DealerXT to make sure that all of your paperwork is correct, all of your I's are dotted, T's are crossed, and these things update with time. That could backfire. And if you don't have this type of coverage, you could be held liable. I think I mentioned 4, but there is an additional coverage that is extremely important, but very hard to get. So this is, we'll call this the 5th one. It's called prior damage disclosure. Okay. A lot of people, and maybe you've seen this actually, I think it was 4 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, an attorney, I think out of San Diego, got a list of all the vehicles that had prior damage from the auction out in LA. And so at the time, we were writing a lot of insurance with, I think, Pacific Specialty and State National. And these policies were including failure to disclose prior damage as part of their bells and whistle endorsements. Okay. So essentially this attorney got super smart and said, well, there's no exclusion. Okay. If this dealer happened to sell a vehicle without disclosing it had prior damage, or even if they did disclose it, if they didn't date it or whatever technicality there was, this attorney was getting like $25,000 per incident. So insurance companies, with that amongst all the other scenarios, became increasingly strict, and they specifically excluded prior damage claims from their policies. So nowadays, you actually have to specifically request prior damage to be on the policy, and it usually results in an additional cost. So that's a very important one, prior damage disclosure.
Just to clarify on this, because you said this at the beginning, I want to make sure this still applies. The consumer, so just to summarize, I guess, what you just described about consumer complaints, whether there is insurance available for that or not. So what you said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that prior to 2016, consumer complaint insurance was more easily available. It was more readily available. It was offered by more insurance companies. It was a lot more common to be available. Dealers would pay something extra for it, and they could be protected from these kinds of lawsuits. But after 2016, it has significantly dropped in the availability, and the ones that are available are very limited. They have a lot of fine print, and all of these, everything under this umbrella is only available up to $25,000. And if it's used one time, you're done. You can never use it again. Am I understanding that correct?
Yes, you've understood this 100% except for the last part. Okay. Some carriers, so for prior damage specifically, yes, the limitation is 25,000, and yes, it is a one-time use essentially. Okay. In regard to the other endorsements that we discussed, title E&O, federal odometer, truth in lending, false pretense, those ones I've seen carriers offer that coverage even after a claim happens. Now, if there's a frequency, a repetitive issue, whether it's title E&O with a clerical issue or salesman not checking the license, if there's 2 of those claims in one year, of course, it doesn't take a genius to understand that there's an issue here. So first off, if that carrier even offers a renewal, they probably won't offer those coverages. And if, let's say, I go to another company because that company is not offering a renewal, the new company is going to ask me, well, why is the old company not offering a renewal? Of course, I have to explain the situations, and that new company may not want to offer those endorsements for another 2 to 3 more years.
Got it. It makes sense from what we've seen in our side of the market, right? As far as lawsuits and customer complaints that have come about. most of what we see, it has to do with disclosures.
Yeah.
And the fact that these insurance companies have almost nearly eliminated the coverage that exists for dealers, I mean, they're not even willing to take more money for it. That's how, in my mind, that's the conclusion I'm coming to is you're an insurance company, you have statistics, right? So you can protect yourself from loss, and they're not willing to take any amount of money to insure a dealer against this thing that is the lawsuits that are the majority of lawsuit claims that are being brought against car dealers. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, it's been a very hard market, and dealer insurance companies, there's only a handful of them that are going to give you good coverage. Okay. And the term good, I summarize that to good, but there's a lot of fine print you have to understand, from not just these endorsements we talk about, but also the symbols of liability that these dealers are being offered. A lot of dealers say, oh, well, I'm going with Mesa Insurance or Colony Insurance, but they offer you a limited liability, meaning in the event of the dealer picking up a car that's not yet owned by them. Let's just say they just picked it up. It's not yet owned by them, or they're doing a test drive. The vehicle isn't owned by them. Some insurance companies may exclude liability to vehicles not owned by the dealer. So it's important to have what they call symbol 21, which covers liability for any vehicle the dealer drives, regardless if it's owned.
Wow.
So there's, a lot of conversation to be had. And of course, I only offer creme de la creme. If they complain about the price, then I start narrowing it down and saying, hey, I educate them. This is where we can shave off. But would you be willing to risk this coverage for this savings? You make it very black and white for them. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, it's only $500 a year. When you put it like that, it's probably worth it to pay the extra money.
What are the benefits that you and Sarkhosh Insurance provide to car dealers?
Well, it really, I think, is our experience. I mean, quite frankly, my dad had humble beginnings, and I started with him during a time where, like I said earlier, we just exited our contract with Farmers Insurance. My dad was a farmer's agent for 26 years. Okay. And so, in 2012, we went from Farmers to fully independent. And that just totally shifted our gears because, we were coming from one company, one software, one program to dozens and dozens, and you have to constantly adapt.
You were with Farmers Insurance back in, before Sarkhosh Insurance started. You became independent. It was difficult to go from obviously one whole different system that was limited to one insurance company to what you guys had done by going independent.
So because of that, because we went independent, we had to shift our gears dramatically. Now we had to work with dozens and dozens of carriers and get acquainted with their systems and the underwriters and the policy language and so on and so forth. So the education behind that and the experience is probably one of our biggest prized possessions. Unfortunately, we didn't have a blueprint on how to do these things. And with that being said, when you learn by experience, it's not always a positive experience. Sometimes you learn through negative experiences. And, those happen in any industry you're in, whether you're in the car business or you're an attorney or you're in insurance or you're a doctor. I mean, hopefully not a doctor because you're dealing with people's lives, but they do happen, right? Mistakes happen. We're all human. And I think just acknowledging, mistakes, number one, to your clients is important. If I were to ever make a mistake, and if it was something new to me, I would want to fully disclose from the beginning, hey, I've never insured a firework manufacturer, right? And so I'm going to help you, but you have to be patient with me, right? And those are the type of experiences that I mean when it comes to relaying, what it is you're going to do. And same goes for dealer. If a guy is with the top company right now with all the dealer markets, and he comes to me and says, "Hey, Mikhail, I want to quote, I want to get that second opinion," and I see he's with the top company already that I would probably put him with, I'm going to say, well, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? I want to figure out what's really the reason driving him behind shopping. Is it the lack of service? Is it the lack of education? And so there's so many variables that come into play. But I just think that, experience is probably one of the largest factors, because it allows us to guide those conversations and really consult with people based on our experience. And it's not just me. I have a staff over here with a shared experience of over 50 years between my father and our other staff members. My brother works with me. We have 3 CSRs in the commercial lines that all kind of help with the policy and day-to-day servicing. And we also have a personal lines department, and we have a group health department. So if my dealer comes to me with the personal related question I don't know how to answer, I pick, so-and-so's brain. Or if it's a health insurance related question, I pick, so the other person's brain. And I'm not the master of every type of insurance policy. That's like saying you're the master of every type of, lawsuit. And it's just not possible. So, I think the experience and knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know is equally as important.
How do policies and procedures affect car dealerships when it comes to their eligibility and premiums with insurance?
If you do not have a good enough process and procedure in your business, you're going to experience claims or issues, right? Or issues which can turn into claims. So number one, insurance companies will obviously judge those claims against you if you come to me and, hey, you didn't dot your I's or cross your T's. Now we have 3 false pretense claims. We're going to not offer that type of coverage. So process and procedure really doesn't have a ton of effect from a new venture standpoint. I mean, insurance companies want to make sure that the owner they have a solid resume, and they're not just some, it's not like they were working at an Applebee's and now they decided to open up a car dealership. They want to make sure they have experience as a salesperson or a finance manager or a general manager before they even entertain any sort of insurance product for that business. Those type of tools will only help you maybe relay the information to the insurance company in a more clear, concise way to make that claim process a little bit smoother. Does that make sense? But at the end of the day, we're in the day and age of technology, and we're in the good old state of California, right? So your process and your procedure, you can be a rock star salesman, right? You could sell 30 cars a month, one guy, okay? But if you don't have a good process and procedure and all your deals are coming back, how many of those 30 deals are worthwhile? So aside from an insurance standpoint, from an administration standpoint, it can drive your expense through the roof. You're basically spinning your wheels to make a deal go through if you're not doing it correctly from the beginning.
I think it's a good place to stop.
Perfect. Yeah, the one thing I will just actually say real quick is, in regard to used car dealers and like my business, the future, where I see the future heading is, there's always we have so much technology nowadays, and there's always going to be more advanced computer systems, quick quotes here, quick financing through this, whatever the case is. But the need for human consultation, I don't think is ever going to go away anytime soon, at least, not at least in our lifetimes. So, I'm very lucky to be in a business where I'm able to work with other like-minded professionals who value that and really can, utilize my services the same way their clients will utilize theirs. So I'll end it with that and hope that, we can all be in business for another 100 years.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it because with the same line of, improvements in technology and that sort, I'm also hoping that they come up with some kind of pill that'll help us survive for another 100 years so we can be around to see all of the great technology and improvements in our industries as well. Mikhail, it's been such a pleasure, man. Thank you so much for all the great information. Again, Mikhail Sarkhosh, Sarkhosh Insurance, sarkhoshins.com. What's a good phone number to reach you?
Yeah, so we're based here in Central California. We're representing the 559 area code. So our number is 559-243-9000. Feel free to call us, ask for myself, ask for any agent in regard to the garage or car dealer business. We have agents on board who are all as equally educated on these policies and will make things happen as soon as we can for you.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. And I've met many of the team, and they're just wonderful, wonderful people to talk to. And everyone is just so incredibly genuine with their passion for helping clients. So again, thank you so much for your time, man. Please send my best to your brother, your dad, the rest of the team. Looking forward to coming down and playing some ping pong with you.
You soon. Got it, man. Take care. Thank you for having me on, and looking forward to talking with you soon.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Mikhail.
Right.
Take care, bro.